community. So today I would like to share two connected pieces of work on community notes, one of the largest real-world experiments in crowd-based misinformation governance. Together, these projects ask a broader question that is closely related to collaborative intelligence. How can we combine collective human judgments with the speed, evidence processing capability, and learning capacity of AI systems? Okay, let me begin with a quick overview of how community nodes work on X. So the process basically involves three main stages. So users first flag potentially misleading posts, the node contributors write notes with clarification or context, and then finally users collaboratively rate notes for helpfulness. So based on these ratings, a node receives one of the three statuses: on needs more ratings, on currently rated not helpful, or currently rated helpful. Importantly, only notes that reach the helpful status are publicly displayed alongside the original post. So community notes does not rely on a centralized fact-checking authority. It uses distributed participation to decide both what context should be added and whether that context is useful. Well, this model is appealing, but it has a serious timing problem. In our first study, we examined more than 30,000 health-related community notes posted between 2021 and 2025. We found that it takes a median of 10.4 hours for the first note to be written, followed by another more than 7 hours for the note to receive its first helpfulness verdict. That is more than 17 hours in total. And even more importantly, 87.9% of notes remain in the needs more rating state and therefore never become visible to ordinary users. So there are two bottlenecks. Note generation is delayed and helpfulness ratings are sparse. In fast-moving health misinformation events, corrective information may therefore arrive too late or never touch the audience at all. Speed, however, is only one part of the problem. The crowd's helpfulness judgment does not always guarantee factual rigor. Here's one example. So the post claims that the COVID-19 vaccines cause irreversible heart damages in 90% of vaccinated people. A human written note was rated helpful by the crowd and cited the American Heart Association page. But when we actually inspected the source, the cited page only discussed very general risk factors for heart disease. So it is not even quite related to the claim made in the misleading post. And more broadly, among the 89 notes that misrepresented the evidence, we found errors such as unsupported claims, overgeneralization, and misinterpretation of source context. This reveals what we call the fluency trap. A note may sound clear and convincing, and therefore appear helpful to the audience, while still relying on irrelevant or insufficient evidence. To address these limitations, we developed Chronos Plus, where LLMs act as evidence-grounded collaborators within the community notes workflow. We consider two complementary modes of note generation. In the first mode, augmentation, a human provides the evidence, and the LLM helps transform that evidence into a clearer and more useful note. In the second mode, which is automation, the LLM retrieves evidence and drafts notes from scratch, which helping to reduce the long delay before the first correction is made visible. We also redesigned the note assessment process. Instead of asking whether a note is helpful or not, we evaluate it hierarchically. First, is the evidence relevant to the claim? Second, does the note represent the evidence correctly? And third, does the note provide useful context? In other words, helpfulness is only treated as the final layer of evaluation rather than as a substitute for factual correctness. So Chronos Plus shows that LLMs can help produce more timely and evidence-grounded notes. But there's still an important limitation. Every new case is now repeating the same correction process. The agent analyzes the post, searches for evidence, writes a note, and receives an evaluation. And then it effectively discards this correction experience. So when the next misleading post appears, the system starts over again. So even when the individual note becomes better, the overall system still does not necessarily become more experienced. This is not only a limitation of existing AI systems, we also observe the exact same problem within the human community note system. So this timeline shows 3 health-related posts published across 2023 to 2025. So in the first case, the post exaggerated a quotation about COVID-19 and prior disease. So the successful note corrected the claim by checking the original quotation and restoring its context. The note reached helpful status before the later posts were created. So the ecosystem has already discovered a useful strategy. When a claim relies on a sensational quotation, verify the quote in its original context. However, later notes failed to apply this lesson. They again left the important quotation context unchecked and were rated not helpful. So the lesson existed, but it always remained local to the earlier episode. It was never transformed into reusable correction experience. This motivated our second project, Evernote. So Evernote treats each misinformation correction as a learning episode. Instead of simply generating a note and moving on, it follows a 4-step cycle: generate, evaluate, distill, and reuse. After an agent completes a correction episode, a judge will examine the quality of the trajectory and the resulting note. The system then distills actionable lessons from that feedback and stores them in an evolving experience memory that grows through time. And these lessons can then guide the future cases. So for example, the agent might learn that when a post makes a dramatic claim about supposed a cancer cure, it should distinguish the early stage lab or clinical research from evidence of an established treatment. So the main idea is very simple. Feedback from one correction episode should become usable experience for the next. So we also test, does this accumulated experience actually improve the final corrections? Well, in our evaluation, Evernote achieved an 89.6% pairwise win over the human written notes. And the chart on the left focuses on the 403 cases where both the human note and Evernote correction were judged helpful. Even within this already high-quality subset, Evernote was preferred more often across all 4 public-facing dimensions relevant to health misinformation correction: on understandability, on meaningfulness, on usability, and on trustworthiness. So for posts that haven't yet reached crowd consensus, that means in the needs more rating status, our model is able to get 82% of helpful cases before crowd consensus ever arises. And the system generated a candidate correction in under 2 minutes end-to-end, compared with the many hours typically required for human note creation and crowd evaluation. So these results suggest that accumulated experience can improve both the efficiency and the public-facing utility of misinformation correction. To conclude, these 2 projects point to 2 complementary roles for AI in collective misinformation governance. So evidence-grounded collaboration improves the quality of individual corrections, and reusable experience allows the broader system to improve over time. So the goal is beyond to replace crowds with AI. It is to design systems where human contributions, collective judgments, and correction outcomes can support more timely, reliable, and continuously improving governance. Thank you very much.
Any question for Jiaying? Okay. So if no more question, so let's thank Jiaying and Yixuan and Han and Tianqi and Ella and Bobo who gave the lightning talk this section. Thank you so much.